I'm now going to introduce you to the Exponentially app. And we've built this app because as we worked with customers over the last few years running hundreds of prototypes, it gets very complicated very quickly when you're running multiple experiments across multiple ideas and they're all competing and bringing different sets of data in. So we created this to be able to manage that, but also to keep you focused on getting experiments out the door. And to this end, we created a metric called experiment velocity, which means the number of experiments that you got in front of customers running live or that have passed or failed in any given month. And the reason for this is you can spend a lot of time debating experiments and talking about them and trying to navigate actually getting them in front of customers. But all that's great, but we don't care. Get them in front of the customer as fast as possible, get the data as fast as possible. And that's why you have the Exponentially app. So just to quickly take you through this, because we'll be using this to manage your experiments through this course and capture the canvas and prototypes and all these things. On the top left-hand side, what you can see is a chart that just tracks your experiments growth and how many experiments we're getting out the door, how many are running, etc. On the right-hand side, you can think of that as a funnel where we go from an experiment is designed or prototype is designed. It's then ready. We then make it live and we're actually running it. That runs normally for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. They either pass or fail, and we keep track of the total experiments. So it's a good way to manage what's going on. Below that, you'll see that we track the ideas stopped. So when I spoke earlier about we save money every time we don't do something, this is a very obvious way to track that. So when we're creating an idea or adding idea, we always take our best estimate around what it would cost to actually make that thing end to end. And in this case, we've saved $150,000 by stopping a project. Below here on the dashboard, we also track who the team members are, who's involved. On the right-hand side, we can see which ideas and groupings there are. But this is the heart of it. So what you see here is the list of all the ideas at the idea level, not experiments. And we have the list of ideas here. Anything that you see in blue is an active idea. Something that's red is something that we've stopped. We decided to stop after running a bunch of experiments, as you can see, that have failed. And then the green ones are validated ideas. In other words, the experiments have passed and we're happy to go and either build it or go to the next step in terms of whatever you're going to do with that to make it real. You'll also notice some color coding with these little dots. What this is showing you, it relates to the experiment overview up here. So that's a live experiment. These have all failed. 2 years have passed. One is in the ready state, another one in the ready state, and 1 year is running and live. So it's a good way to, at a glance, see where we are, how many experiments we're running for each one, and try and get sense of it. To make that a little bit easier, we are able to sort. So the question obviously is, out of all the ideas you have, which one is winning? And we created another thing called most successful, which sounds fluffy, but what that means when we sort by it is just we want to see those ideas that have the most experiments and the most successful experiments, the most experiments that have passed. So in this case, it's this book rooms with locals rather than hotels. Think of Airbnb. And 2 experiments have passed and 1 has failed, but they've passed enough to show us that this is worth doing. When we drill into any of these ideas, this is then a summary page of what that idea description is, how many experiments we've run. Alberta created the term called Successor Graph, which means how many experiments have passed relative to what we said is that initial level of interest. So the baseline, so in this case, it's clearly a winner. And then we've got a whole bunch of experiment detail information running over here. So let me go into the second day sushi example that I spoke about earlier and talk you through what that would look like. So if we go and edit this idea, and you'll be doing this when you add your own, we capture here the idea details. We capture the estimated cost of development, which is how much money it would cost to make this thing or bring this idea to life. We can then mark the idea as active or valid or stopped. We can track the different categories of the ideas here. Here we capture the lean canvas with all the elements, which we'll talk about in a moment. We then capture the prototype details, which we'll get to as we build out what prototypes look like. And then we capture the details of each experiment. So what is the experiment? What is that go, no go? What is that initial level of interest we're aiming for? What is the hyper zoom and the description. Don't worry, we'll get to all of this and how we do this as we go through. And then we can also capture which prototyping technique we would use for this potentially, when we're going to run it, the budget for the experiment, is it designed, ready, or live? And then when it's complete, we would go through and we see how many people did a thing, how many people took action, what was the result, and we'll talk through this in a moment. And if there's any to-dos for your team to do, we can add this in here, and we can add multiple experiments. So that's a quick overview of the Exponentially app. We'll be using this to capture your ideas, the exercises, and your actual ideas. And I will also use this in the future as I help you out with your own ideas and experiments to check in and see how things are going. So if you have any questions, let me know and we can help you out.